Okay, so I want everybody to know, first of all, good morning.
Good morning.
What is my name? You shall remember my name. My name is Kelly. And yes, I remember all of your names. We are missing two of our cohort. Carl, the chief of Mount Pleasant. Yes, I was going to say Point Pleasant, but that's another state. But he in Mount Pleasant, he had a particular situation that necessitated his presence, his physical presence there in his city, because he's essentially the grand poobah of the city today and for the next few days as he oversees all the official duties because other people, the politicos, are out of town. Mike Rip, he is at a particular class. He anticipates he communicated to be here tomorrow. So we're recording this. I will tell you up front, in a graduate master's program, being absent is not ideal. Being absent is not desirable. Being absent is actually frowned upon, but we're all working professionals. If Kevin's plane were to some reason be held up at Heathrow Airport, we're pretty certain that he's committed to the program and not going to be here. If Sully, for some reason, had to have a court appearance, we understand that. But I want you to appreciate, although we will make every effort to accommodate you, ideally, you'll be right here, and especially today, because here in a few moments you're going to see what we're going to be doing, and that is breaking off into some group work. That group work is very important. The graduate program experience is not only supposed to be an intense program of focus and study for you individually, it's also supposed to be an opportunity for you to learn how to work well and play in the sandbox with others. So your answers today, things will be recorded. I will imagine that they're going to record the second half of your experience today also. So if you don't want to be on camera, some of you are talking about bald spots. Some of you perhaps want to be on camera. And right there it is. Make certain. And Adam, you did check it. It's actually filming. Did you see the red button and all? Okay.
You're gonna make me double check, but yes, I did check.
Yes. It should be redundant.
We're still good.
Okay, I actually thought about bringing in my audio recorder and just laying it here also. That way, I oftentimes audio record classes at the undergraduate level and then upload those. I also audio record them so that if somebody says, hey, you said this or you said that, we can go back and we can check the record. And I like that approach. The program for today is going to include going over the studies that we worked on from the 40 studies. The program that we're going to follow this morning particularly is we're going to break up into some group work, and we'll do that here in a few moments. When we break up into that group work, I've got a plan of action, an outline for you to follow, and then we're going to come back in and you get the privilege of being able to help extrapolate, explain these particular studies that you found most interesting, and then we'll proceed from there. The graduate level program does necessitate that you be able to speak and explain, even after rapidly accessing information, and then you have to make sometimes rapid applications. The stakes are much lower from an impact of one life in this environment, but you need to be able to do that. I also wanted to tell, this is a spectacular cohort group because we have a mixture of people from fields that are practitioners in the criminal justice system that are not exclusively isolated. When I do mean isolated, we're using some of Van Manen's words here, isolated to the law enforcement function, recognizing always that there are 4 subcomponent parts. Each of the subcomponent parts is interdependent upon the other parts. And so this is going to be great. The reason I say that is because the very first part of the book, we deal with policing issues. And then eventually we get into studies of other issues beyond policing. Why do you think, Mr. Dyer, that we start with policing?
No.
Yes, you're Andrew Dyer, right? You're Clemson Andy, never mind. So, I'll go back to Clemson Andy though, Mr. Dyer, I'll come back to you on something else. Why do you think that the 40 Studies book actually commences, morning Stephen, actually commences with an exploration of police issues? I mean, why didn't it start with the Article 1 legislative branch? Why didn't it start something else in the executive branch? I mean, you could have started under the executive branch with corrections. Why didn't you start with the court system? Recognize that today, what is today? Today is the 10-year anniversary of what? Anybody catch that? The 10-year anniversary of Chief Justice John Roberts' court. And when we say it's his court, it's because typically we'll talk about the courts in particular eras. You know, you have the Warren Court, the Burger Court. You have the early court, which was the first 17 Supreme Court justices, and because they were there for such a small period of time, and despite the fact that Marbury versus Madison created the concept of judicial review, we really didn't see these strong personalities presenting until after the fact. And that's why now we have the Rehnquist Court. Now we're at the Roberts Court. For 10 years, Chief Justice John Roberts has been in charge of the Supreme Court as the Chief Justice. And interesting article today in USA Today speaking about that. But Andy from Clemson, I come back to this. Why did the book start with the police? Anybody help me figure out?
Because police are the first stage of the criminal justice system?
Absolutely. I always like to call them the ushers. These are the guys that we usher people into the system through the police. And so that's the natural first part. And then if we go with sequential steps and even the filtering process, what we see from there is we go police, then we go courts, then we go corrections. But Jimmy, an important part left out of that is the actual true first beginning, the real genesis for all of our criminal justice system, and that would be what? Legislature. And that's why I say, make no mistake, there's 4 distinct subcomponent parts of this system, and that has to include the legislative process. So we are going to go over that. But I have some papers to hand back, and when I hand these back, I think I have all of them. Marcus, yours came through in a different format, and we'll have to talk about that, but I don't have yours with me at this moment. I think I have everybody else's. We'll have to see here in a moment. If not, then I'll have to go back and check my printouts. But I'm going to hand these back here in a few moments. You'll see, try to cover up the name here. You'll see that the grading rubric, pretty straightforward. This is what the grading rubric looked like. Very much like what Dr. Dave used. And so he used a 15-point system, gave you the 3s, the 2 points. Hello, Professor Turner.
Just checking out, seeing how the room's doing.
You know what? We'll give you a better update after the first session.
Is it still cold in here?
Feels fine to me.
You'll see that we have the video camera going. So this is a work in progress. The donation that helped facilitate the building of this classroom and the other was a spectacular gift of $50,000+, and we're still putting some of the component pieces together, as you can see. And so really, truly, you're one of the first groups that gets to experience this. But
Everybody's laughing and smiling in here.
well, I'm hitting with heavy stuff at the moment, I guess. So,
Wait until next time.
yes, we're loosening up. You'll see that the grading rubric pretty straightforward. I don't think anybody got below a 13 1/4. I don't think anybody got that. I think maybe 13 1/2. I wanted to make some notes or point out some thoughts about when you write. Some of you write exceptionally well. Some of you are getting back into the practice of writing. Some of you are getting back into the practice of articulation, and that just takes time. One of the things I wanted to point out, and I just made some quick notes, is try to use headings as much as possible to direct the reader where you are going, and that will facilitate the process of writing so that people do not misunderstand your direction. As I'm taking a look at one right here, I'm trying to grab one. Here's one. We have particular headings, as you can see. I wouldn't put them up on there, but I didn't black out names. But what you see here are particular headings. Now, what you'll also see is a comment that I oftentimes put in there, is that when you use a heading, when you're changing the paragraph content, when you're going a new direction, I like to bold and highlight. I come from the background of not only academic writing, but a lot of legal writing. And I think it's very important that you direct the reader to where you want to go. And so that's the reason you bold and highlight. The reason I'm going over this in the first class is because you are going to see other instructors, other professors come in, and they're going to tell you, they're going to emphasize some of the writing points, but quite frankly, this being the entry point, except for Kevin and Sully, this being the entry point for the program, it's incumbent upon me to let you know some of the writing styles, awareness that you need to take note of. So using headings, etc. Another thing is word use. If it says you have up to 1,000 words, do like my daughter does. Do like I do. If a document, so like if I'm writing an appeal brief and it says your limit is 35 pages, I want to perhaps use up to that 35 pages with all of the useful, relevant information that I can, but I don't want to include superfluous information. I don't want to be redundant. I want to look like I'm very logical in the approach that I'm using. My daughter's essays right now for her college app says 500 words. Explain why United States Military Academy at West Point, how they should engage in diversity. You have 500 words. Imagine the concept of diversity being explained in 500 words. And so but she didn't want to go 300 words, she didn't want to go 400 words. This is the first opportunity she gets to explain to the rest of the world, particularly this place for application. She wants to use all 500 words. What I'm telling you is use all of the assigned words and use them economically and use them in such a way that you can get the greatest bang for your buck. If I were to give you $1 and say that's all you've got for the week, Andy from Clemson's going to probably prioritize that spending, more likely to include something purple and orange. But others of us might say, you know what, we have different priorities. When it comes to writing, write and use all of the words available. I will tell you this, improvement does come with practice. It is an art. When I first started writing, I wrote sufficiently well to get a positive grade, but it became better over time. If you set out to write today, it can be challenging. The next time you have a writing assignment, it will go easier. The next time after that, the words will flow off your tongue. I oftentimes pray before I go into a large presentation, done presentations from small as this up to 1,000. And I always pray, please, your Lord, let the words flow off my tongue like poetry. Let me be persuasive and influential and economical with the words that I use. And it does come easier over time. So if you receive some marks today that you go, I feel a little discouraged, don't be discouraged whatsoever. If you're discouraged, that's a you problem. If you're discouraged, set discouragement aside and say, I shouldn't be discouraged. Hamilton even said, I should be encouraged because I get the opportunity to practice this art again. One of the most valuable writing instructions I ever learned when I was on the police department was in the supervisor's manual that I had to consult often. It said, write so that you cannot be misunderstood. Write in such a manner so that you cannot be misunderstood. Things are taken out of context all the time. Look at Donald Trump. He is backpedaling, explaining Ben Carson lately. These are presidential candidates on the Republican side. They are constantly backpedaling. And as they constantly backpedal, trying to explain their position, oftentimes they say, well, my words are taken out of context. Write in such a way that your words cannot be taken out of context. That means you have to go back and review that which you're writing. Today, we're going to break up into groups. And as we break up into these groups, I'm going to hand some of your papers back. As I said, I know for sure that Marcus's paper is not in this pile. Only because he and I got to look at it. But I think everybody else's is. So I'm going to go ahead and pass these back. The grade part is on the top. So if you want to quickly flip that over or keep it private, that's certainly something you can do. I'll explain here in a moment why I'm passing these back now so that we can use them in a few moments. If Marcus's, because it came off the printer in a real format. Darren, I know I saw yours, I don't know why it's not in my pile right now. Andy, I'll have to go back and check my pile. I did this 2 different ways. I started printing them all off, and I was gonna do it by hand, and I'm like, I can't even read my own handwriting. I know what it says, I know what it means to me, but some of you won't know what it means. So what I tried to do is I tried to go back, if I can borrow your paper for 1 second. I tried to go back and say, you know what, let me type in my note, let me type in my thoughts, let me type in my shorthand so that you have a better idea. So I'll go back to my office here in a moment and look for Darren's and Andy's, and I know Marcus is right where he's at. So here's what we're going to do today. I know you're wanting to look at your papers and go over them. We can certainly do that. And I know that the danger is, of course, you want to see your grade, you want to see your comments, things like that. Let's refocus though and set that aside. You can have a few minutes to do that here in a few seconds. What we're going to do next is we're going to break up into some groups, but we're going to break up into groups in a very particular way. If you would take one of these and just pass them all around. Andy, do you have a copy of your paper with you? You know what it is with you? Okay. And Darren, do you have a copy of yours with you? Okay, well, I'll get yours. I just need a few minutes to figure out. I highlighted a bunch, hit the print function, and then just went from there and started stapling. So that's why. So what we are going to do here in a few moments is we're going to break off into some groups. I expected 13 to be here today. I printed 14, 1 for me. So Jim and I will look off the same one here for a moment. So what we're going to do is we're going to break off into some groups based upon the area of your particular paper interest, your particular study selection. You're going to have approximately an hour to sit strategize with each other. As you are sitting and strategizing with each other, you are going to be contemplating who's going to speak about which of the studies you've been assigned. You're also going to make certain that you present information according to the outline that I have here on this piece of paper for you. And you'll see there in part number 3, students in their group prepare an oral report to be delivered addressing these following topical issues. And the A, B, and C, I tried to outline it the way that hopefully you'll start thinking. You may start thinking more linear, more outline fashion, so that immediately from a process of recall, it comes up easier when you know where it is you're looking for a piece of information in your repertoire of understanding and recall. But you'll see here we want a description of the study, any hypothesis that was stated. One of the things I really like about this book is that as you are reading in this book, so right here I'm looking at page 6, it has in italicized statements, it says ethical considerations. When you continue on in this book, looking almost anywhere, on any page, we talk about on page 8, it's highlighted generalizability. Essentially, can we generalize, can we extrapolate? It also has the word on page 8, validity. It has these key terms of art, because then when you start looking at criminological theory, it will begin highlighting some of the process and the important parts of creating a study, of conducting a study, of writing about a study. And I really like this book in 40 Studies because they have gone through the added work of even talking about here on page 13, what's an exploratory study versus a descriptive study? What's an experimental study versus so it'll be very important for you to take a look at those words. Those words are ultimately highlighted for you in a little separated vignette at the end of each chapter. And on chapter 1, on page 12, it says key methodological terms. These are important terms for you to use starting today. Tomorrow I'm going to show you a report that I'd written in like 97, 98, 99, somewhere in that time frame, where I, as a practitioner in the criminal justice system, was tasked with the responsibility to create a study. And it lasted 45 days, just a collection period of that study. And then we had to go through and make it a legitimate study. Where did I learn how to do that? I learned how to do it in undergrad. If you haven't learned how to do it in undergrad, you are going to learn how to do it in this program. And ultimately, when you take the research methods class, you will have an opportunity to see how those pieces come together. But 40 Studies does an excellent job. You're going to take a look at any treatment. When we talk about treatment, I want you to identify, was there a control group? Was there, what was the treatment that was given to the experimental group? When we talk about studies, there's all kinds of variables. And so I want you to list out some of the variables of this particular study. Then you're going to give us a summary of the results, identify any proofs, any truths, which are maybe aside from the conclusions. The conclusion may be different than a particular proven empirical fact from that study. And then ultimately you're going to identify any policy implications created by the study. The big question there is, how did this study impact or change criminal justice as we know it today? So, James, if I could use your book just a little bit further here. And if anybody forgets anybody's name, I'll pass their sheet around, because I'm sure some of you are going, Chad and Marcus, they clearly know Jimmy because they see him every day, but they may forget who else, everybody else. So I brought that in. So we're going to take a look at this first part of the study. The only one that I definitely know, Barrett is definitely going to be involved in the Minnesota DV study. That's the only one that I saw a lot of good work written by many different people, but some of the information you included in that particular analysis, I definitely want to see it. Then after I read it in yours, I read bits and pieces in others' enlightenment of that particular topic, but I already know you're definitely in the Minnesota DV study. Let's go through and let's focus upon the police behavior here for a moment. And as we take a look at these various studies, I'm just going to start, I'm already over here, so I'll start with Jim. Jim, what is one study you definitely would feel most comfortable presenting?
The study on females in law enforcement.
Females in law enforcement. Who else did any kind of work on females as practitioners? Andy Clemson did. Okay, so you two are definitely a group. Anybody else do any other work on females in law enforcement? So you two are definitely working together. Let's go, Darren, what were the topics what were the 3 studies that you focused upon? Do you remember?
When I was kind of scattered. I didn't really, it was sort of like an even level of interest across the board, actually.
Okay, we'll come back to you here in just a moment. Andy, what did you focus upon?
I kind of focused on the racial aspects of everything in the Breyer and Skolnick study in the beginning of first few chapters.
So the police personality?
Yeah.
Did you worked on that one?
Working personality, yeah.
So who else is involved in the police behavior interest? Jimmy is? Say it again.
I did police styles also.
We're gonna go more than 3 people per group, so let's, so right now, we have Andy Dyer, we have Jimmy and Marcus in the same group, dealing with issues. What did you, Shay, did you also do that area?
You mean the section dealing with the juveniles?
Yeah, I think that, let's, and when you talk about dealing with juveniles, we're talking more about the discretion. And so I'm gonna break that into a different subset. So it's Andy, Jimmy, and Marcus. They're in a group, and they're specifically going to be dealing with the studies under police behavior, the police personality, policing styles, and the police officer socialization. Everybody got that? Can we get back over here to you just a second? Stephen, what were your areas?
The domestic violence, Kansas City preventative control, broken window.
Who else has an interest in participating in that particular? Okay, so I know Chad and Stephen are working together in a group. Darren, we may add you to that group. Darren makes the jump anyways, we don't have to add. So everybody keep track of your groups at the moment, because then we're gonna break them out here in a moment. Barrett, what were your interests?
Domestic violence, the foot patrol and broken windows.
So you actually,
Right.
kind of theirs. Go ahead and jump into that group for the moment. Andy, what were your interests? Actually, you're already with, yes, you're already, yeah. Sully?
I had officer discretion, I had underlying issues and deadly force. So the Kansas City, the preventive crime, and then I had, problem oriented policing can fix, police fix underlying problems, and the last one was deadly force, the variations of police shootings.
Which I think has an interesting conclusion, don't you?
Yes, sir.
And ultimately, they come down to the same conclusion, well, I'll save it for our actual discussion, but having been in that situation before, I was very interested in what researchers think. It's a very easy decision when somebody is making a real threat at you. So you're going to be in police discretion and the shooting. So then when we talk about the police discretion and the shootings, then actually, who's got the DV aspect already? Somebody over here already had the domestic violence aspect. That's right. It was Adam.
The foot patrol and broken window,
Kevin,
so it's got that group over there.
let's, so Sully, we're going to use we'll assign you the discretion and the deadly use of force out of chapter 5, both Milton and Friedrich's material. Kevin?
I did discretion, foot patrol, and pop.
Anybody else interested in police story or problem-oriented policing? Because I'm really down to Crystal trying to figure out. Crystal, what are your interests?
It was, police description, broken windows, and police behavior.
I have several already working on police behavior. So Crystal, I'm gonna actually ask that you, Kevin, and Sully work together on police discretion, and then I'll leave Adam as an island. Hold on, go ahead. Oh, I thought you, what were your interests?
Discretion, I did the police behavior discretion, broken windows.
So let's have Shay and Kevin work together on chapter 4, the broken windows. And Kevin's already invested in problem-oriented policing. Kevin, I also want you to make certain that you're attentive. You won't be in this group with Sully and Shay, but I want you to be attentive because he has a different perspective that can be presented to us related to firearms and policing. And I think I've enjoyed talking with Kevin about that on several occasions because it requires a whole nother skill set to be able to police a populace without the threat of backup that you carry in the form of 6 pounds of metal on your hip.
So I'm with Shay and Sully.
You're gonna work with Shay, just the two of you,
Okay.
and you're gonna address chapter 4. And Sully, Crystal, are definitely gonna work together, along with Adam. And you will be addressing some elements of police discretion from chapter 2. So let me, and we're gonna go back around here in just a second. But you definitely, I want you to make certain that you present the part as it relates to the Minnesota DV experiment, which deals with discretion. When we talk about discretion, Sully's gonna add in the component from chapter 5 that deals specifically with law enforcement related use of force. So let's start back over here. I've got James and specifically, that is going to be chapter 6. Now, that's only one study between the two of you, so we'll come back to it here in a moment. Darren, you were going to join. Chad and, help me keep track, Steve. And specifically, Stephen, you guys were going to work on,
Kansas City study and, broken windows, whatnot.
Andy, you were going to be with,
Jamie and, Mark.
and specifically what were we focused on?
Police behavior.
Police behavior, and specifically, we're looking at the police personality by Skolnick, his working personality, and we are looking at, did any of your three papers also deal with the policing styles? Wilson study.
They said they could handle 3 or 4.
So you're definitely gonna have Skolnick, Wilson study, out of chapter 1. Yes, Van Manning study. That pretty much covers all of policing behavior. Was there anything else, Andy, that you wanted to, did that cover the 3 that you did?
Well, it covered one of them, but that's okay.
That, yeah, I just need to make certain, that I addressed one. Between the 3 of you, because I didn't memorize what sections your paper were, I'm trying to create a diagram for it, was gonna be exciting, beyond my ease. So you 3, between the 3 of you, did one of you do Skolnick?
I did.
Did one of you do, the other 2 do Wilson? You did Van Manning, you did Wilson, right? Covered, all right. Stephen, we already have you down in the Kansas City and the broken windows with Darren and Chad. Here's the reality, that's only 2 studies. Between the 3 of you, Darren, Stephen, and Chad, who's going to be doing, just an approximation, I need to make sure I have all these accounted for as best as possible. Did one of you do Kansas City? I think I got the sense you did. Who did the broken windows? And then Darren, do you remember, top of your head, what you did? I'll go pull yours and we'll take care of it. Let's see, coming to Barrett, who did we connect you with, Barrett?
You threw me in with Derek, Steve, and Chad. You said jump in that group for now.
Okay. And so, of the 3 topics, of the 3 studies that you appreciated, which one?
Either broken windows or, yeah, because out of that group, that's the only one I had.
What were the other two?
The foot patrol and the domestic violence.
Would you please do foot patrol?
Yes, sir.
Which goes along in line with the order maintenance construct of broken windows. And the foot patrol obviously goes very well in place with the Kansas City patrol experience. Andy, who did we work with you?
With James.
That's right, sorry. Sully, we have you, Crystal,
Yes, sir.
and Adam. Adam is doing the Minnesota. Sully, you are going to do deadly force. Now, Crystal, you had also talked about discretion, correct?
I did.
And when we look at discretion, it really plays well if you do Philipin and Breyer's police encounter with juveniles. Is that part of what you already wrote about?
I did.
Brings me to Kev and Shay are together, correct? And
Doing Paul. With Goldstein and
Shay, what was yours?
I think you told me the broken windows.
Okay, what were the other 2 that you also did in your 3 parts?
I did the discretion with juveniles and
juveniles, I already have, say it one more time, Shay, please.
I did the broken windows, the one with juveniles and the police behaviors across communities.
Let's do the police behaviors across communities. Well, because I almost need to move you into another group, but I'm still going to keep you. Let's do the police behaviors across communities, working that together with the problem-oriented policing. And feel free to also do juveniles if it so strikes you. Would you guys break up? Crystal, you're going to be doing the discretion, correct?
Right.
And, but I also know you have a passion for juveniles too, if I remember correctly. Is that true?
I did focus on juveniles supervision.
So what I would like for you to do, I'm gonna have you two cross-pollinate, two groups. The reason is I really would like somebody to speak specifically about juveniles. Nobody else is speaking to juveniles, correct? And so I'm actually creating an additional subset group, which you two will do on juveniles. So here's what's gonna happen. You're gonna meet, you don't have to stay in this room. We've got great couches over here. We've got some other meeting rooms around. Break up into your groups and talk. Start addressing the issues as stated here on this paper. Make as many notes as you want. Scratch them out by hand, scratch them out by keyboard, however you want to do it. Do we have any questions about what we are doing? Hearing none? Okay, it is 8:43. That went a little bit longer than anticipated, but you can see this is one of the larger groups, trying to keep it all together. And I want to make sure everybody got something they were passionate about that they actually wrote about and covered as much ground as possible. We will reconvene at 9:45. When we reconvene at 9:45, please already take care of whatever snacks and refreshments that you want. You'll do that on your own during this interim time. We will be going to 11 and 11, or lunch at 11:30. George does not like to go at 11:31. He wants to go at 11:30. When he gets me started talking about his nap time, but that's on the side. So use whatever space in the building that you want. There's also a little tiny gazebo outside. Feel free to go outside, get together in your groups. If you don't remember your groups, I've got them written down right here. Any questions? 1, 2, 3, ready? First, we're gonna turn the camera off for now. And we'll turn the camera off when we just,
So.
it's 8:44. We'll return and turn it back on when we reconvene.
Okay.
Go.